over and over and over.
Okay, Clay, I get the point.
No, you don't!
Greetings, fellow mortals. Just a reminder saying it's just my opinion is for cowards. Normally, anime only captures my attention for a short while. I watch a few episodes of a show, or maybe the full season even, and then forget about it later. Even the things that I like fade from my memory after a very short amount of time. There are so many different series, especially in the isekai genre, that they tend to fit together into my mind as one gigantic blob. I need there to be something different about the series, an it factor that I just can't explain in a few words, something so unapologetically different that I have no choice but to pay attention to it.
What the hell is this?
Enter ReZero. At first glance, the series doesn't seem to be all that special. Teenage shut-in otaku guy is teleported to a magical world where he has a special power. If you describe this to anyone even slightly aware of the genre, they'll probably roll their eyes at you. In fact, most people would just roll their eyes no matter what. Oh, the main character is summoned because they're special? What an original concept. Why would you even like this slop?
I can explain.
Well, the immediate answer is because it's not exactly what you think. The main character, Subaru, is in fact not special. Actually, he's the most generic, average guy that you can imagine from our world. And in the Kingdom of Lagunica, he's a tiny, weak little baby who can't accomplish anything on his own, really. He is in no way faster, stronger, or smarter than basically anyone else. His only power is the fact that he cannot die.
I'm a god.
You're God.
I'm a god. I'm not the god.
Okay, he can die, but when he does, his soul is thrust back in time to a previous point. Right as he dies, he wakes up at his quote-unquote save point that he really can't pick himself. But to use his power, he has to experience the pain of death every single time. There is no other way. If he wants to reset things, he has to, and thank you YouTube for this, flatline himself and deal with the physical, mental, and emotional trauma that comes with it every single time. And considering that the original author has come out and said that the chance of him not using Return by Death in an arc is 0%, well, it's gonna happen a lot. So yes, this is not only an isekai, a show about someone being summoned to another world, it's also a time loop story, meaning that if you don't like either trope or genre, this is not a series for you. And also because the world and characters reset constantly, the main anchor for you to care about the events of the series is the main character. And the thing about Subaru is that during many different points in the series, you're not supposed to like him.
Hate, 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 hate. Double hate.
Loathe entirely.
That's right, he acts boastful to the point that he's seemingly arrogant. He is much louder than almost everyone else around him. He can be dumb at different points, putting the pieces together much slower than the audience. He has no phenomenal talent, he's not driven to accomplish anything, and he uses a happy mask to hide his deeply ingrained feelings of inadequacy, self-loathing, and nihilism, meaning that he's basically you. That's right, you hate him because he is you, or at least he reminds you of someone very close to you.
I think I touched a nerve.
Many different harem anime use self-insert characters, a generic, average nobody without any standout characteristics other than generic goodness. ReZero goes the exact opposite direction by filling Subaru with every single characteristic that most people don't like about themselves and putting it on full display with his rapidly deteriorating mental health due to using Return by Death over and over and over again, meaning that ReZero is a deep dive into what the majority of men hate about themselves the most.
That's not funny. That's not...
In fact, there is one scene in ReZero which is so painfully embarrassing that I have not been able to watch and or read it in its entirety since my first viewing. A beatdown of such epic proportions, where Subaru shows his full pride, ego, and narcissism on display for everyone to see. And I suppose this is the point where I should be giving a spoiler warning for all of Season 1 and parts of Season 2 and 3, meaning arcs 1 through 5, but I won't talk too much about the future arcs, even though arcs 6 and 7 are pretty much a doozy.
What the hell is that?
You see, throughout most of Season 1, Subaru has deluded himself into thinking that things will always work out for him because he's the person who was summoned. He's the hero, the main character, so he can challenge anyone or anything and come out on top. After all, he was the one who saved the day in the first 2 arcs, mostly by asking for help, but it is shown in alternate scenarios how important his intervention is, even though nobody really knows who he is at that point. And while the series emphasizes that Subaru's actions are important and influential, that doesn't mean that he can't fail, or that he can brute force his way through obstacles. Things can go wrong in a heartbeat if Subaru isn't careful. In fact, things will go wrong no matter what happens, and the first 3 arcs emphasized his need to rely on others, even though he really doesn't figure it out all the way until Season 2. And even then, relying on others can be difficult when he cannot tell anyone about its power without terrible consequences created by the one who gave him his ability, the hated Witch of Envy, who just so happens to look exactly like the main heroine of the story.
Take a look at this.
Jesus Christ,
That right there is the mail. Now let's talk about the mail. Can we talk about the mail, please, Mac? I'm dying to talk about the mail with you all day, okay?
Yep, the truth, or at least the most that's been revealed so far in every iteration of the series, is that the reason Subaru is there in this world and can return by death is because the Witch of Envy is obsessed with him. Why? No idea. And considering that I've been following the series for 5 years now, I doubt I'll be getting an answer anytime soon.
This isn't my world. Disappointed!
So the entire series is about Subaru accepting himself for who he truly is, overcoming the weak aspects of his personality, and building relationships with people around him to create an outcome where he doesn't lose everything, all the while facing threats which are a danger to even the most powerful people in the world. In fact, by the time that Season 3 rolls around, Subaru is so trusted by the people around him that the One Punch Man of this universe relies on him for advice during battle. Isn't that weird?
Tag me! Tag me!
And I think the unapologetic deep dive into who Subaru is as a person and the hard look about what we hate most about ourselves is what draws me in most with ReZero. Subaru is at times a frustrating character, even in his use of Return by Death. It makes me roll my eyes at times, even in the latest season where the obvious answer was literally right next to him during his initial loops. Just ask your multiple centuries-year-old advisor for, oh, I don't know, advice?
Oh, it's so obvious. I would have never thought of that.
But that's just it. Subaru is who he is. He has his limits, and even his best requires resets at times. And if you're not invested in him by the second half of the first season, then you'll never like him. Episodes 15 through 18 hit like a truck. So much so that I play Requiem of Silence on a regular basis, even years later, along with Subaru and Rem's speeches about how he hates himself and how she loves him.
First, let's get one thing straight. I'm not crying. I'm just sweating through my eyes.
And Rem, one look at this character, and you would never realize how well written a demon maid could be, because Subaru was able to overcome his wrath and forgive her for what she did in an alternate timeline. He gained the most loyal ally one could possibly imagine, to the point where we are shown time and time again that she will sacrifice everything for him. In a lot of ways, this use of the time loop trope fully flushed out her character in a way that I didn't think was possible, to the point that even years upon years later, she's still my favorite character.
I've only had Arlo for a day and a half. But if anything happened to him, I would kill everyone in this room and then myself.
And of course, Subaru rejects her feelings because of Amelia, and that leads me to the things that I don't like about this series. ReZero is by no means perfect. Its romance is pretty okay to bad. Some of the side ones are good, others just plain suck. And considering that the audience really doesn't see character development for Amelia until season 2 or arc 4, then it makes me care less about her than Rem, who has yet to return to who she was before being erased by gluttony. Yeah, the best character still isn't around fully over 8 arcs into the story. That's not frustrating at all. There's also some generic anime-isms that usually make me roll my eyes. You don't see it as much in the first few arcs, but they show up later. They really don't bother me all that much, they're just a little bit cringy with some of the designs and jokes. There's also a pacing issue. Because the audience is usually way ahead of Subaru, it's easy to be a bit frustrated, especially at the start. There's anticipation that feels a bit too stretched out, especially with Subaru being his weakest self at the start. I know people who got frustrated and quit right after beginning the show. That's a big barrier to entry, and the focus on Subaru over everyone else leads to the problem of everyone besides Rem feeling slightly one note at the start of the series, equations to be solved rather than actual individuals. It is until arc 7/season 2 where this is fixed, and the development of everyone else makes arc 5/season 3 into my overall favorite. All this leading into arc 7, which demands that you remember all of the small details sprinkled to you throughout the story.
Write that down, write that down!
Along with the pacing being frustrating at times as things crawl to a halt for character exposition, the single most frustrating thing about ReZero is the lack of answers. If you have a question, you're going to have to wait a long time for an answer, and that answer leads to 5 more questions. So good luck. This is an unapologetic series. It is what it is, and there's not a single compromise about it. Its pacing, world building, and character development are done when the author wants, with no consideration to what you want at all. And that unapologetic genuineness is what makes me obsessed with the series.
Please, sir, I want some more.
It helps that the author is clearly obsessed with his own world, thinking of all the tiny details well ahead of time. In fact, there are even important bits of information revealed in the what-if stories. For almost every single major arc, Subaru has to overcome a sin, and in the canon version, he becomes a better version of himself. But in the what-if stories, he surrenders to temptation, becoming a drastically different and usually worse version of himself.
Man, you are one pathetic loser.
A prideful Subaru unable to ask for help becomes an archbishop of the witch cult. A wrathful Subaru unable to forgive alternate timelines becomes a mob boss. A slothful Subaru runs away with Rem to another country, establishing a happy life far away from the chaos. A greedy Subaru no longer values his own pain, suffering, and sanity, overusing return by death countless times to have a completely perfect outcome to everything. And a gluttonous Subaru eats too much cake and can't adventure anymore. Nah, just kidding. He just murders everyone that he's ever loved after forgetting his previous character development.
Well, that sucks.
But even in those alternate stories, the author sprinkles in details that you didn't know about the world, about the characters, or even about how Return by Death even functions. The attention to detail is insane, even if you can see the heavy inspirations from other series to the point that some things seem pretty close to being rip-offs. But then you get to the twists in the formula, like some of the powers, and you see the thought put into almost every single little detail.
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you?
What is wrong with you?
One weird thing that I've heard people say about ReZero is that it's an entry-level anime, and I would completely disagree. If someone asked me what they should watch to get into the medium, it would be Death Note, Erased, or Full Metal Alchemist. Stuff that is a lot easier to consume. ReZero is a unique beast that almost seems to be chasing people away at points with the creative decisions, almost daring you to give up on it.
What's wrong, McFly? chicken?
Let me put it this way, if the anime, manga, and light novels were all cancelled, I think the author would just keep writing on the web, just like how he started. This is a story he wants to tell, something close to his heart, something that he's obsessed over and he's thought over for years upon years, something that matters to him above all else. He makes what he wants to make no matter what anyone else says or thinks, and we're just along for the ride. And if that's not something to celebrate and to contemplate in a world of cookie cutter and safe ripoffs, remakes, and reboots, I don't know what is. But what do you think? Do you like ReZero? Do you hate it? Do you think that my criticisms are wrong? Do you prefer Amelia over Rem? Please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And remember, if you disagree with everything I have to say, that is perfectly fine. After all, everyone is entitled to their objectively wrong opinion.
Now we play the waiting game. No, the waiting game sucks. Let's play Hungry Hungry Hippos.
Thank you all so much for watching.
You're still here?
Good night, everybody.
Thank you. You bye. Boom.
Do not despair.